Hi there, my name is Troels. Welcome to Soundpaint. In this video, it's going to be a little bit personal because not only are we dealing with a library that's very near and dear to me on many personal levels, but we're also questioning what is the purpose of music. And I kind of want to start with this second question, I guess, in terms of what is the purpose of music? Is the purpose to have millions and followers and loves and likes? What is the value of music? What does it really mean to us? And I think sometimes music dies a little bit in the numbers, the loves, the likes. I always tell our kids, like, don't live for the likes because it's kind of hollow and forgotten tomorrow and it's just data and numbers, whatever. It doesn't really have anything to do with music. For me, music is a reflection of life. And when in its best shapes it's communicated, it really gives me that feeling as well. I'm learning something as a human being. There's something going out through the ether. And forgive me if I sound preachy, by the way, in any stretch, because I hate people that sound preachy. But for me, it's just sometimes I just feel in this modern world, we forget a little bit about the purpose of music and what it's really about, the human experience. Bypassing logic, speaking straight to the heart. Many years ago, I got an idea for a library series called Forgotten Voices. I wanted to find singers that were really, really great, but not known. A little bit for the same reasons that we just talked about, because I think there's so many talents out there that are undiscovered and are yet doing very purposeful things with music. And I was so lucky to find one singer that led to another and led to another. And in that process of sonic exploration, I was so fortunate to find Barbary Grant. Barbary, I don't even know where to start, is an amazing singer, an amazing musician, and an amazing human being. But she did something very, very special in her younger days. She partook in an experiment at Stanford University, or Stanford Hospital to be precise. There's an engineer there that got the idea of having artists play in front of people at the hospital, in front of the patients. And Barbary was one of the first people that partook in that experiment. And the story goes that this engineer suggested this to the board, and the hospital said, well, you can do this, you can get these artists in and sing for people if you want to, but you're gonna have to pay for it out of your own pocket. So the engineer did, and it turned out so successful, and they were measuring the artist and the impact it had on people and their blood pressure and their overall well-being at the hospital, that Stanford ended up having 4 full-time singers and artists working at the hospital, and Barbary is one of them, and she's been there for over, I think, 25 years. So she's really, really seen and heard everything you could, both in terms of singing preemies into life and singing other people out of life, and really utilizing music in the deepest way possible in a sort of one-to-one relationship where it's just her and a given patient, and sometimes smaller groups as well. But for me, this is what it's about. This is where the music begins, a meaningful experience. We are not counting the numbers and the likes and the loves of all that stuff. We're making music, we're communicating life out in the ether and hopefully moving other people in the process. But besides from being the phenomenal artist that Barbary is, she's also a master in a couple of different languages, and that's reflected in the library here. There's all these different songs. Some of them are in Old Scottish, others are in Gaelic, these old dialects of English, if I may. I'm probably saying this wrong. There's probably some linguist out there who's like, no, they're not dialects of English, but we're up there. We're over in Scotland, England, those kind of dialects and languages that emerged over there over time. And she speaks them and sings them fluently and with such a nuanced attention to all the different phrasings, which is beautiful. Barbary is also a big library. It contains over 3,000 vocal phrases divided over dozens of different songs and a huge amount of multi-samples as well, so you can really play her or use the phrases as well. I've used her both in Tomb Raider, I used her in Overwatch as well. I know that a good friend of mine, Mikolaj Stroinski, also used her for his phenomenal soundtrack for the video game called The Witcher, which was, I think, like Game of the Year a couple of years ago, and the soundtrack certainly as well. And it's just so beautiful to see Barbary both being used in this sort of one-to-one context in terms of her personal stuff, but also to see her being used widely in the world. And I guess I'm maybe contradicting myself with the millions and loves and likes and all the hollow bullshit online stuff, but maybe that's okay. Maybe they can coexist side by side. But how awesome that we have a musical soul like her doing such beautiful work, meaningful work at the deepest level, and yet being able to play her on our keyboards as well. So without further ado, let's get into the library. I decided not to present this library myself because I'm so deeply invested into it, and as you can hear, it's very personal for me. We do have a SoundCloud. I'll put the description in the link where you can listen to Barbary. We did a long interview with her and really hear her backstory. I totally encourage you to listen to that if you want to get into the backgrounds of it. But I'm going to pass the musical baton to Dan. And he actually didn't know the backstory for this library, so he's totally just taken from a new point of view and really just approaching this library as something brand new without all the backstories and all that. And I think that's a beautiful thing to do as well. So let's get into it. Let's go deep.
Hey everyone, my name is Dan Chimy. People like to call me Chimy, and you can too. I am a bassist, composer, and sound designer living in Los Angeles, and I'm very excited to check out this incredible special library with you today. This is the Barbary Voices library, and as you just heard from Troels, it's a special one. I think this library has something like over 1,000 different phrases, all Celtic, Gaelic, experimental, or improvisational, and there's just so much here to work with, so I don't want to waste any more time. Let's just jump in. Now, these samples come from an incredible singer, Barbary Grant, who is a harpist and singer, and some of these actually include her singing into her harp, which is a really, really cool effect. We'll get into that in a second. But she's just one of those singers that you just hear and instantly want to just like have at all of your sessions, just like in case you need her, because this kind of voice is so useful in so many different styles of music, whether you're trying to, score, whether you're trying to, put it in some kind of crazy reverb and effects and use it in a house track. I mean, you will quickly see how useful this library is. So, typically a large library thus far has been maybe 15 parts, 20 parts. This is over 40. I just had to count because I was scrolling through and I was like, it can't keep going. No, it does keep going. And they're all kind of arranged by the type of phrase, maybe the style of phrase. If there's anything involved with the harp, probably in those. And you also get some just very standard vowel sounds here as well, some sustains that are really, really useful, not just on their own, but also for blending purposes as well. So no, I will not be going through every single note, every single phrase on every single part. That is, as I said, probably over 1,000 phrases. But I just want to give you the general gist of this library. So we're going to do a quick speed run. If I have a comment, I'll drop it real quick. But let's just start at the top with this Ambience library. Now I think Ambience is one of the more experimental ones, if I'm not mistaken. But let's check it out. This is amazing. The reverb party has begun. And we have two of them with a delay on the end. This program's using 3 layers, which is awesome. I mean, obviously it's a solo vocal library, but don't let that stop you. This is great use of layering here. And the matrix brings up part 3, which is maybe slightly different. Yeah, because we got such a dark tone up here. This tone's in the middle, so this is going to be slightly brighter. So bringing up the mod wheel brings in some brightness. Now this one of Troels I did check out, Ambience Air, and it's a good one. cool. And of course, yep, there it is. Gotta have our EQ mod wheel action. That's pretty. So you heard the kind of experimental ambiance library, and then we got into just the sustains, which are super, super useful. I mean, this is one of those voices that you will just quickly find out sounds immaculate through any reverb profile in this entire, in all of Soundpaint. I could close my eyes, pick a reverb profile, mess with all the settings, and somehow this voice would be like perfect for it. But now we're going to get into some actual phrases, and it's interesting to see how these phrases are arranged and how they're labeled. We're going to kind of just go through a couple random ones. Again, I don't want to play every single phrase for you because we'd be here for a while. But just to give you some ideas of where this is coming from. It's all Celtic, Gaelic, folklore kind of stuff. And folk is the word that comes to mind. It's a very folky style voice, very folky phrases. But as I think you'll see, this is useful in all kinds of music. So let's just go. And if you know anything about me, I do love me some envelope and offset tool. So I love long, complex phrases where maybe I can just grab a word or a vowel or an attack of one of her phrases, maybe a huh, that kind of sound, and then use that in another sound. So these phrases are pretty neat for that. You're getting the random sampling of this library. Random sampling of the sample library. So playing two phrases at once can sometimes yield some pretty cool results. I just hit an open fifth on Songboat here. They work pretty nice together. Yeah, it's just like clay. You could just jump in and just hit random things and see what works. Some things are going to work better than others, but it's kind of one of those things where if you sit down with it and you play one note and you kind of just find another phrase that maybe accompanies it or is in the same key, or you want to tune it, and put it in another part and kind of have, two parts from the same library, but, in a harmony, that would be really cool. The lies so long in thy bed, we're all laid idle. Verreg me at just, Alleluia. Classic, understood that one. Bring back my Creeman. Mochrola, they always nihation them hin. Will ye forsake you? So you check that out. You hear that kind of resonance to these particular sounds. That's I think her singing into her harp. There's kind of you can hear it. It's kind of just an upper, or actually it's like a lower mid resonance. Woo! I love that. Oh my gosh. I hope all you like producers that do house stuff and hip hop stuff, I hope you're like just grabbing onto this thinking like, yes, this is prime sample material. I mean, all these the quick vibrato, it's just stunning. And, adding the harp is such an interesting way to change the voice and bring a new character to it. And in a way that's so true to who she is, because she is a harpist.
While to that rock I'm clinging.
Oh, I love that. See, here I was thinking improv was just going to be just phrases, but no, there's some beautiful melodies and long tone sustained stuff. That's super useful. All right, let's see. How are we doing here? We have a lot to go. I'm going to go ahead and just skip to whisper so you can hear something a little bit different. That's so cool. And then same thing, but Gaelic. Oh, that's really whisper. Cool. So I basically stayed within like a 2-octave range. We went through maybe 15 to 20% of these parts. There's a lot. There's so much here. So let's just go straight over to the programs where I have some exciting news because this is new to me as well. I just got these programs. Typically I get them a little bit beforehand and I'm able to go through and pick out some favorites, and I was for a handful of them, but then Troels just literally hit me up and sent me about 40 more that he made. So I haven't gotten a chance to go through them. This is hot off the presses. But we'll hit some of the ones that I did check out, and then we can explore together. Getting to some out harmony there. It's super fun. I mean, that is experimental is the understatement of the day. I mean, you can just get in there and kind of play, maybe familiar grips or voicings on the keys, and it can sound totally awesome or totally not great. But I've often found that if it doesn't sound great, if you just move over or up by one, you typically land on something that's harmonious with what you got going on. And once again, here we go. We're going through a grain reverb, a plate reverb. But these are, those are on. Just barely. I love that. So predominantly we have 14% wet on the grain going into 4% of the plate, 7% of a delay scatter, and then quite a bit for 13% of a shimmer. So that's really, really interesting. And don't be afraid to stack reverbs, delays, choruses. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Playing with your signal chain and your flow left to right and the orders of things and the amounts of things, that's where you get some really wild results. Let's check out Goodbye. Oh, I see. Okay. So we've got this tuned down 36, which, if I do math correct, is 3 octaves. So obviously, the lower you go, the more kind of stretch you get on the timing of the vocals. We know Barbary's good, but I don't know if she can hit that low or this low. Check this out. Okay, cool. So this is something we have not talked about. Key ranges. You can define the range in which you want your parts to play. So just there, my eyebrow shot up because I was just telling you how it's so low, and then there was like a high voice out of nowhere. That's the second part, which is normal, and we have a range here limiting it all the way up to E3, which I believe is this. So if we play F3, there's no anything, but if we play E3, maybe that's not E3, this is E3. Where's E3? I was never good at this. There it is. That's E3. It's embarrassing, but I can't think about it like that. So that's a really cool choice by this sound designer to kind of force you to play low, bellowing, kind of almost drone-like sounds while having the higher above it. Because that sample is so slow, it's almost got a natural slow attack to it. That's haunting. That is really, really cool. All right, this one is called Imagination. Now, I love having two different vowel sounds. That's something that really can create some awesome effects. It just brings something out of me. I don't know. I could just sit here and do all the voice leading stuff all day. That's, oof, wow. I got chills. I actually got chills. And some good advice. Just breathe. Super interesting to me. We got a low pass one pole filter. Very cool. She has such a warm, relatively, not a whole lot of sparkly upper harmonic stuff. So the low pass filter is not doing all that much, but it's doing enough. It's really complex when it starts going into all these reverbs. I mean, here we go again. We've got grain, we've got plate, delay scatter all the way through a shimmer, and then that whole thing's being compressed. Cool. Here's Rain Outside. I love it. Can't play a wrong note. It's beauty all over the keyboard. So now we are going to check out some of these mystery Troels programs. I don't know what to. I'm just gonna look at what interests me the most here, and I'm interested in what solo glide means. So is he using mono glide? Sort of. This one's using mono glide. Well, we got to check that out. Oh wow. Okay. So that's a very, very different approach to this library, but I love the spirit of it, obviously. Very, very cool. Well, it's tempting me, so let's check it out. Synth voice. Bravo. And oh, man after my own heart using the offset tool here. So we are taking the initial attack of these O's and we're just kind of lopping it off to kind of make it more. So it's right when I hit the note, that's when it speaks. Remember, just for refresher's sake, if we were to take the offset tool and have it just the beginning, this is what it would sound like. A little bit of glide into it. So yeah, if you're trying to make, I mean, just as a thought experiment, this is the most boilerplate sustained sound, and we are chopping that off to get kind of an interesting sustain to make kind of a synthy thing. Imagine if you did that with every word in all of these phrases. Think about how many options that is. If you took an offset tool and you started really parsing through these parts and saying, oh, what's this phrase? What's this phrase? Oh, I like how she did that attack there. I like how, this particular sustain sounds. Maybe I can pair that with an envelope. It's really, it starts to get the cogs turning. And at a certain point, you just kind of have to give up and start trying stuff. That's really where you find the magic. All right. So I just kind of clicked through the rest of them. These all seem like really just very tasteful treatments of each library. I think this kind of falls into the category of main programs here. So this looks like just beautiful treatment on all of these. Definitely not all as experimental as our synth voice, but I did want to check out this one, the White Knight. This is not a Troels preset, but I had it hearted, and it is the first one I think that has 4 parts, I believe. So we're dealing with E, oo, oo, and chants here. So this is going to be an interesting one. Yeah. The thing I'm most impressed about is that we have this chant layer in here. I know it's low, but that's pretty bold because those keys are all, this is not a one note. This is just the chant library. So those are all different. That's cool. So this sound designer must have, surmised that the chant stuff is either slower or a little more, if you're getting dissonant motion within these kind of super vocal pad type things, that's cool. I think that just adds to the charm of it. Some really awesome utilizations of these parts. That was really fun to go through, but not as fun as making our own. So let's do that. So let's try and create one of those giant vocal stacks. And as I said, this library is so unpredictable and so massive that, forgive me, I haven't picked out individual phrases, and there's going to be an element of randomness to this, but just to show you how we can arrive at something really, really cool, kind of through some devices and tools that I like to use, but relatively random choices here in terms of the libraries and the notes we choose. So let's try the maids.
In a field by the but I sheep on little snow white field on little
I love that phrase. What I'm doing when I'm listening through here, I'm trying to create something that I can just kind of chunk and take out. And if you saw the ASMR video, kind of a similar approach where I'm trying to find specific little chunks and stacking them so that they complement each other. So I'm looking for strong, fortified kind of sounds. That's a very strong, dominant kind of phrase that would be very cool to have at the front of this sound. Now, how do we make that happen? Well, let's go over to our envelope section here. Do our favorite trick of dropping the sustain. It's too short of a decay. Nice. Now, you can choose whether you want this to be a one-note same program, which would basically just kind of be whatever chord we come up with here, or you can have it be keyboard stretched, one-note stretch, which I think I'm going to do for now. It's a good start. Now I'm hearing kind of a fifth. I would love a drone to accompany that. So I'm going to go up to our sustains for that probably, and let's go with O's. I'm going to tune that to something that makes sense. Oh yeah. And let's do a slightly different, let's try E. And let's make it a fifth. Cool. I want to try one trick that I learned that was sort of interesting, and I want to experiment with it here. Let's bring this pitch back down so that these two are matching. So we've got them at -5. Had that layer on. So one thing that's kind of an interesting exercise is to change vowel shapes through the morph tool. And it sometimes works better than others. It really works well on I think the choral stuff, it really works well, maybe just because there's more to mess with in there. But let's try with solo voice. Check that out. Always try both directions on morph because they do tend to yield very different results. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? LFO that. That almost sounds like throat singing, doesn't it? It seems to get a little gnarly when it goes far to the right. So let's maybe stop it at 90%. Still getting a little gnarly and scratchy towards the end there. Try 87%. That's a acceptable amount of grunge. Cool. Okay, so now that's very high. So let's you can do one of two things here. I kind of almost think of it as like gain staging your pitches, because there's a limited range of what you can bend up. There's less of a limited range of what you can bend down. So I will probably have this come down an octave. Keep these at -5. Hello, there you are. I lied. Let's go down -17. Cool. But now, because we're doing this little trick here, we're going to want to grab something that's going to be our strong fifth. So let's check out Ah. Now my original sample is getting slightly lost here. I might bring it back up just to the 0 point just to hear where we're coming from. That's kind of a nicer. A lot of this stuff is trying to find, especially when you're dealing with vocal libraries, but trying to find where things sit comfortably. Sometimes it's not the most obvious interval. Sometimes perfect octaves don't always work out. Oh, that's nice. Let's do ourselves a favor and just bring up the release of these guys. Oh, and this one as well. Nice. I want to get some left-right motion, but I'm currently a little too lazy to go in and do panning LFOs for all of these different parts. But what I'm not too lazy to do is to grab the stereo imager and just have the whole thing move a little bit. I love this trick. I think just, you know, in terms of your width, you can that's to taste. But if you grab your rotation here and you just add another LFO, set the bias to center, and really rein in our range here. Think about how cool this is going to sound when we put it through 6 different reverbs. And as I've said before, I like to think about this as my coarse tune and this is my fine tune. So 30% was giving me just a little too wide. And no motion, there's no such thing as too much motion in Soundpaint as far as I'm concerned. Use your LFOs to the max. So use all the LFOs. We've got one on the morph here. That counts as motion. I might do just a little bit of manual panning here. So like -20. Oh, right. Morphing is active. Silly. And then maybe 20 over here. And then I tend to keep the part that I want to be focused in the middle. Sounds goofy way up high, but this little sweet spot here, right here, it's really, really cool. And then the ah is a little too bright for me. Let's bring it down. And I would actually, if you were doing a project and you wanted this to be like, da, da, like along with whatever you're composing to, you could tempo sync that morph, because that's where we're getting that rhythm actually right now is from that bottom layer. So just morphing vowels can be enough to determine what kind of drive your piece is going to have. How cool is that? Okay, enough of this. Let's do some reverbs. Let's be, I'm going to stick to my original thought, which was let's do a little touch of everything. The grain, awesome. I'm a big fan of using the presets. Always jump to presets and adjust to your taste. Oh, that's so pretty, isn't it? I might do a little pre-EQing before it goes into that reverb, because we're picking up a lot of like low mids. That 300 to 500 range can sometimes just muck up your sound in a way that's not so cool. But at the same time, I'm going to give a little bit of high shelf just to throw some harmonics into this verb that we have going here. Don't worry, I'll change the I know it's ahead right now. There we go. Oh yeah. A little bass boost would be nice, right? I mean, I'm biased, but... Wow. That cool? And don't look now, but that's a composition. I mean, as I've told Troels many times, a lot of the time that I sit down to do either these videos or sound programming, I have to like stop because I write something in the process and I need to like sit down and jot it and so I don't forget it. Soundpaint is as much a creation tool and a sound design tool as it is a compositional tool as well. So that's really, really cool. There was a moment in there where I was like, man, is this going to work out? And man, I mean, what an awesome... It's beautiful. It's true to the character of the library. We have so many little interesting things, and it's not even that complex. I mean, I do know it's 4 layers and we're doing some cool LFO stuff, but how awesome is that? What a really cool patch. Love it. So before I leave you, I just wanted to create one more program here with a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? Direction. I just want to try something where we go in with a strong idea and see how we get to it. So an idea that I had was some kind of like bow sound. Maybe not so much a bow, but just kind of like a string sustain kind of sound, maybe 1 or 2, perhaps maybe a guitar with maybe some interesting envelopes on it, and just a repetitive phrase that's kind of very evocative of the folk style that I feel like this library really captures. So what part should we start with? I'm gonna do this harp. Let's do harp 3. I love the concept of singing into the harp. I think that creates a unique resonance that you really can't replicate in any other way. I mean, even if you finally tuned your filters and your reverbs to be just like as close as you could get, I still don't think it would be. So it's cool that it's baked into the sample like this. I love that. So I'm going to search for a phrase that kind of has a lilt to it, kind of a jaunty, something that just is very evocative of the folk style, and see where we land. Trying to capture that lilt there. That's very cool. I'm gonna one note stretch that, and I think that's actually a C, but I'm playing a B. So for my, so I think that's actually a C, and I'm playing a B. So yeah, let me drop it. Oh, here we go. Okay, this is gonna be cool. I can assure you that Barbary probably had no idea that this kind of a sound would ever come from her library. But here we are. So I know I just complimented the tone of the harp singing, but I'm going to make it slightly brighter. That works for me. Mandolin sustain would be pretty cool. That's too literal of attack. I want something that's going to sustain just a little bit longer. Let's try this this Martin guitar here. That's cool. Let's put a dope envelope on it. Cool. I do like that. I don't know if we've ever talked about this, but you do have a separate part over here for specifically attacks and releases, which is just a really quick way to get to something that might be cool. And I'm thinking maybe like a piano attack would be interesting, just to add a little bit of like punch to the beginning of my phrase here. And as always, when I load a new part, I like to turn off whatever I have going on just to be able to kind of hear what it sounds like by itself. Let's bring the tone down and the volume up. Ooh, just a little knock. Let's hear what the Steinway one sounds like. You all have the Steinway anyway, so that might be the better move. Yeah, that's not as much of an attack as I was hoping for. Let's try the Broadwell. That's a little more folky to me. Interesting. And that phrase takes a little too long to come in for me, so I'm going to grab my offset tool and just... And with the detail tune down here, you can kind of feather the entrance a little bit. It's kind of like its own attack. It's almost like it has an attack-specific envelope for the... Pretty interesting. I'm trying to create sounds that play into other sounds. Does that make sense? So, for me, the attack is handing off to the vocal, which is crescendoing at the same time as our envelope here of the guitar. I'm going to bring the tone down on the attack. Nice. I'm almost tempted to find another phrase that complements the first phrase. So let's turn all these off. And let's go ahead and find ourselves maybe chant. Let's try chant. That kind of complements it because It's slow moving while we have the lilt happening in the first phrase, the ba, and then when the first phrase chills out, it does the same thing. It's kind of like a call and response. Now let's see if I can tune these together. It's gonna be harder than it looks. So you do run into this problem where sometimes it will have a bad placement on the keyboard and you're going to kind of need to adjust some things around it. So this is ridiculously high. So let's try dropping this an octave. It's actually going to be minus 13. That's cool. I'm gonna make it a little brighter. I'm getting a little too much mud from the chant layer. That's cool. That's cool to me. Getting everything in tune is going to be the fun part. Ooh, that was a fifth. Now, that's a cool core sound. It's a little abrasive. I'm not necessarily convinced that it's the most useful texture. So when I like the gist of what I've come up with, but I maybe don't appreciate the the harshness of it, I might just try and put it through a cool filter to see if I can get something pre-reverb that maybe we lose our phrases now, and that's okay. Maybe you lose the distinction of what she's saying. Maybe you lose being able to separate the elements, but maybe you also end up with a really cool sound that's actually an instrument that you can kind of play. Not sure if the latter is the right one here. Let's try true state variables low pass, or band pass. Band pass followed by a low pass. Hear me out. I'm gonna kind of get everything kind of thinned out here. I'm gonna do a compressor to bring up the volume because we're losing some gain. Now a low pass, and I think I'm gonna stick with I'll do modern analog. We can bring up the volume of everything, I think. So now we're really starting to lay it on thick. Oh, that's cool. And you're getting like a sharp 4 kind of thing when you play open fifths. So there's a little Lydian action. Oh, this is going to be cool. Hold on. Stick with me. Have faith. Next thing I'm going to do, just so I don't have to like have that hard cutoff, is I'm going to grab the release of all these guys here. Just bump them up. Cool. And then let's try one of our fun ones. Let's see what grain sounds like. I like that. What's you dropped it? I made this, but I forgot what it. Oh, that's cool. Nice. Let's see where we are. It's cool. It's super fun to just explore and kind of just be free with Soundpaint. I mean, the best stuff comes from, kind of throwing everything but the kitchen sink at it and then kind of slowly parsing back. If I were to spend another hour with this, I would maybe try to pan these in a way so that it wasn't maybe all right there. I would also maybe just fine tune the settings of everything, probably do some EQing. But that's a really cool starting point to get maybe just something that sounds like nothing else I've ever heard. Have you? I love how it bends up at the end there. That's so cool. That's really, really fun. What an awesome way to just kind of dive into this library. And if you've watched any of my demos, you know that I'm all about making things from other things. So to end up with this kind of like soundscapey, almost modern age sound after just going through, you know, a bunch of different layers of stuff is really rewarding. It's really a fun place to get to. None of this to overshadow the amazing vocal performance here from Barbary Grant. I mean, you could just use these vocal samples straight up as they are, just filter down one single one of her phrases and just have it chilling in the background of a big reverb for, you know, whatever you're trying to underscore or, you know, create a mood. Literally just like one single part through a reverb is all you need. So, you know, this is the extreme. This is the far, far side of where you can go. But, you know, it's just so useful to have this wide diversity of sounds, and really excited that I got to be able to explore it with you today. So yeah, I'm never going to recommend that you don't pick up one of these because I think every Soundpaint library is useful. But this one in particular is really, really special. And, you know, voices like this just do not come along very often. And so to have such a thorough representation of the way that she sings and to be able to, you know, have it at our fingertips for whatever we want to use it is just, it's a gift. So thanks so much for coming through once again. My name is Chimy, and we'll see you next time. Take care.
When